New way to look at your relationships. A lot of the time, we are taught to essentially make contracts to fulfill a certain relationship, whether that is in marriage, whether that is in family, and sometimes it shows up in work as well because we kind of repeat our patterns and our trauma and our bonding through our work experiences and with authority figures. One thing that I've really had to empower myself to do is release what this contract was meant to mean. The way that we should really define our relationships of any sort is by ensuring that they are there for our growth, right? A lot of people stay stuck in their mindset and in their growth process by relying on people that are not actually going to help them grow. Either you have outgrown them or they are unwilling to grow with you. That's kind of the same thing. The reason why we are able to release friendships a lot easier is because we don't have the same societal pressure to remain in toxic friendships like we do in toxic marriages, partnerships, and parental situations. This is why a lot of narcissism continues to fester in those sort of dynamics. So one thing that I've learned in my spiritual journey, as well as in my life being a divorcee, is sometimes you just gotta cut the relationship. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to make things work when really the contract, while it is binding, is something that is a piece of paper. This isn't for you to minimize what it means, but the challenge that occurs when only one person is willing to make the change, or when you're continuously out of alignment with your surroundings or the people in your life, is that you're going to stay in that and you're going to minimize your potential. So really, a new way of looking at relationships is it a mutually beneficial contract, or is only one person benefiting from this? So are people benefiting from perhaps a lack of boundaries, not having empathy, by being an ego, by minimizing you, right? How are individuals treating you in this scenario? And you're the one watching this, likely the person that's an empath, or someone that is just curious on the video. But if you're an empath and you constantly find yourself questioning whether or not something is good for you or your growth, that is something to look at more deeper. Your intuition and your higher self are trying to tell you something that perhaps your 3D self is not understanding yet. And so empowering you, or I'm empowering you, to take a step back, to give yourself the permission to see why that is. Take some space for yourself and say, why am I feeling this way? If I didn't have XYZ circumstance, would I be feeling better? This isn't to say that you can't do the internal work while you're in a certain relationship, but it is important that the energy you are met with and that you are receiving is the same that you are giving, and is also something that you can maintain respect in and with. Okay, so changes in relationship dynamics are a sign of your spiritual ascension and your growth, and it is also a sign of alignment. You either align and you go upwards, or you detour and you go a separate way. But when we have these societal and cultural pressures to maintain something that is actually really broken and fragile, we actually prolong abuse in our own life, mentally, spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, physically, or all of the above, right? When we are not taught that we have an option to walk away simply because of what something is meant to mean, we kind of keep ourselves limited and stunted in our growth, like I already said before. And we are at that pivotal generation where our kind of like autonomy, sovereignty, authenticity is the most important than it has ever been. I mean, before we kind of came into this colonial world. So centuries ago, thousands of years ago, it was something that was very dominant. It was something that was understood. The value of these sort of connections was something that people did not take for granted like they do now. Now there's so much materialism, ego, greed, addiction that has been placed on top of this. And then another individual may be the person that is meant to break that apart. And don't be kind of judgmental toward yourself if you find yourself stuck in these scenarios. Because the point of empowerment is to understand that you are an empathetic person that has the capacity to change and the capacity to understand. But where the downfall comes is when you start to minimize yourself in order to validate other people's lack of expression and lack of growth, and maybe inexperience of life, and maybe just their willingness to express themselves differently or learn more about you. Okay, so you're attracting these dynamics to heal And if a relationship of any sort stunts your healing process and doesn't allow you to be truly yourself, that is one that you need to consider, and you need to consider breaking the contract of, or understanding the assignment from the universe and saying, I have fulfilled this contract. I have fulfilled this lesson. And allowing yourself to be more free flowing is going to help you shred the patriarchal belief that you need to stay in something that is toxic. And it actually now is going to help promote the collective consciousness to make decisions that are not binding in paper, but binding in spirit. Another thing is if people believe that a contract is something that is meant to make you stay, it ends up being a means of control in whatever direction, right? A lot of people don't sign, let's say, prenuptial agreements because they are more spiritually aligned. They have a higher sense of purpose in terms of knowing what is right versus wrong. This doesn't mean you should or shouldn't do something. Some people will use the contract as a way to get what they want because they don't want to have to undo the contract. They don't want to have to go through the work and the stress of it. But remind yourself of where your energy is. Remind yourself that you're able to change your mind. Remind yourself that things are reversible to a degree. And if you get to that point or that juncture where you are questioning whether that is something you need to do, like I said, you got to take the space. People will continue to use their contract or their parental relationship with you as a way to keep you small and disrespect your boundaries because they feel that you owe them something. The only person you owe something to is yourself, okay? Is yourself. If this resonated and you like this video, please let me know. I'd appreciate if you follow for more content, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.